Now, through the powers of my mystic lava lamp, I predict we're going to have another groovy story today. Peace and love and happiness to you all. Hashi Buddha. Today we're going to be talking about Yui Del Harris, better known as Miss Cleo. So Yui Del Harris, she was born in this faraway land called Los Angeles. And one day she was doing a high school play and she made up her own character called Miss Cleo. And she really liked this character and she played this character so well. Basically, Miss Cleo was a psychic from Jamaica. And she fell in love with this character and everyone loved this character she pretended to be. So one day she decided, what if Miss Cleo wasn't a fictional person I made up? What if I could be Miss Cleo? Now that's such a groovy idea, and I've always heard stories where people would write a fictitious story about a detective, and then like the guy who made Archer, most people don't know this groovy story. He tried to pick up girls and then he just imaginated this fictitious spy agent and he pretended to be him, and then that idea became a cartoon person. But this lady here, she went a step further and she decided she wanted to be the character she made up in her play. So she makes her own psychic hotline, and her fictional character became her actual identity. Now, she was clearly and obviously a fake. Number one, that Jamaican accent, she's not from Jamaica, she's from LA. And people who are actually Jamaican could tell and say, what the fuck, man? That's not how a Jamaican person talks. She's clearly American, yeah, man. But she fooled a lot of people. Her name was fake. She did all of these ungroovy things for money. And capitalism is cool and all, but you don't rip someone off. Now, she would always do these things where she would have a paid actor with a script, and they would read the script, and Miss Cleo would hit the nail on the head. And the person's like, whoa, it's like you're psychic, man. And she's like, I am psychic. But what the audience didn't know is the guy who was the person on the other side of the call, he was a paid actor with a script. There was even one point where someone was like, hangs up the phone, and Miss Cleo was like, oh, I think we got something there. So basically she would predict, I'm seeing you cheated on her. And the guy's like, click. And the whole audience was like, whoa. And she would always say, why don't you call for your free reading? And the free reading would have been like, say, you get 7 minutes free, but you're on hold so long, you're probably on hold for at least 7 minutes. And then once you're on the phone, you don't even talk to Miss Cleo. You're talking to one of her assistants. And she would con you. Then you would get a phone call saying, Miss Cleo had a dream about you. And that call was free, but you have to call back and you have to pay again. And she made billions, not millions, billions. Now, something about addictions people don't understand is you can actually form an addiction to anything that causes a sensation. There was a woman who was addicted to bee stings. There was a lady who was addicted to eating cat food. And there was a person who was addicted to running. So anything that causes a sensation, you can form an addiction to. And it doesn't mean you're stupid. It doesn't mean you're gullible. That's just how the brain is designed. So when you get a dopamine hit, you can form an addiction to it. even if it's something negative or positive. This is why people smoke. This is why people gamble. And usually it is a coping mechanism to deal with depression. And it doesn't mean you're stupid. It means you're human. And you should never, ever shame someone for having an addiction, because let's face it, we've all dealt with addictions and they're hard to break. And shaming someone is not the answer. That's not groovy. But what Miss Cleo did was pure evil. So later on, she's getting in trouble. Miss Yori Del Harris, aka Miss Cleo, has another persona, and her name is Ree Paris. And she wants to get back into making plays. She's kind of sick of this character, Miss Cleo. So she goes by Ree Paris. And she writes all of these scripts. And I think that's groovy of her because this way's more honest. But then she ain't paying her staff. And they're angry. All of her plays flopped. And they're getting in the process of suing her for not paying. So she replies by saying, "I'm sorry I can't be there. I'm fighting bone cancer." And later on, a few years later, she dies of liver and lung cancer. And some people say that was karma. Some people say, whoa, Miss Cleo actually got a prediction correct. And what does her story teach us? It teaches us actually a few lessons. I always like to say every story has two lessons. Number one, she teaches us how to be a great salesman. I knew this one groovy cat. He made up this character called Jarrett James Nickel, who was like this hippie guy, and he decided to be Jarrett James Nickel. Other people say it's how people are always there to mislead you for money. And there's many stories like this. Alex Jones, he was at the verge of losing everything, and his lawyer comes out and says, I actually heard other stories where he actually said this, where he goes at court and says, that's not who I am, that's just a character I play, etc. And for me, I get two versions of this story. Number one, we should always test people and make sure they are who they claim to be. In reality, when people says, I have nothing to prove, if they're asking for your money, they have everything to prove to you. Number two, we can also learn from a positive how to become a great salesman. Like maybe we could sit down and think of what would the perfect salesman be like, make up that character, and then be him. Or to be a better TikTok/YouTuber, think of the perfect character who would do that. What would that groovy cat be like? Put him in your mind and then make him a real person. But for me, I like to say karma always catches the con artist. Until next time, peace and love and happiness to you.